Hello, I'm Sam Spurs for Life and welcome to PRTV. This is your PRTV preview show for the game which kicks off tomorrow, Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa, 2 p.m. on the first New Year's Day. I know there's a few games going off and Spurs need the win tomorrow, so make sure, it's not because of this, but make sure you smash a like on this stream if you like the stream, and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. So welcoming in the house to join me for today's stream, we have the one and only, he's here, Sean Hotspur Hurley himself, 61. How you doing, sir? You all right?
Okay. Been fluctuating with more reading and sort of watching the scores and looking at the table. So it's been in terms of Spurs, not in a good place, I'd say, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I've tried to just, I think from post-World Cup, just not to get too much into it yet because we still got a lot of changes that's going to happen. We've talked about the transfer window. You know, we've got to see other players come back from World Cup duty, other players from other teams, see how the league pans out. But there's a lot of games this month, Sean, as you know. I think I mentioned it on the last stream. We get to the end of, well, it's not even the end, the 23rd of January, having played 6 games. This will be the first of those 6 games coming up. We need to be in the top 4, in my opinion, which we're not at the moment. We'll go into that in a minute. But also, more importantly, I think at this moment in time, we need to be in that FA Cup because I think that's a realistic opportunity for silverware. I know I've said I'm a bit about the league, and you never know where people are still talking about Liverpool having a chance for the league and stuff like that. So why can't we? So, yeah, we've got a lot to do. Where should we start? Should we start up with the last game, or should we just go straight into this one? Because the last game, you know, in terms of the game itself, we reviewed it. It was good and bad for me. It's obviously good to see them be able to come back, but we've said time and time again, I think that's 9 games now where we've, you know, conceded the first goal. I think 5 games in a row where we've gone in at half-time losing the game. Can't continue. What's your thoughts on the performances, both good and bad from Spurs, and what do you think we need to do to ensure we don't start games like we started the last 9?
Do you know, I'm at a loss. It's like that period last sort of winter, early spring, where we were winning, losing. But this time it's like we're losing a half and winning a half. It's, you know, it's not even a game. It seems to be a half in each game, and it's so frustrating that players cannot maintain form, with the exception of our world-class players or player. I mean, without Harry Kane this year, we would be in a far worse place. There's no doubt about it. You know, the man has, you know, would have performed miracles this year for us in the league, and has kept us in it. But I'm becoming more and more pessimistic with each passing day now. You know, the sliding out of the top 4 today, the unrest in the camp, it seems, with Emerson Royale having an argument with coaching staff, the demeanour of Conte and his Sky Sports interview yesterday doesn't fill me with a great deal of Christmas joy or New Year joy, or you know, thinking good things for the year to come.
I know exactly what you mean. As I said, I think what I've tried to do is, like with my work, I've just tried to take a bit of a break. And I've almost tried to take a bit of a break from Spurs, knowing that I've got to go back to it because this is an important month. So this is how I'm saying. For me, this is where it starts. I know we've had the Boxing Day game, and it was away from home, Brentford. Yeah, first game after the World Cup. Anything could have happened. We saw some of the funny scores in terms of, you know, games that happened that day. But the teams that mattered around us all won. The likes of Man City won. Arsenal won, Man United won, Liverpool won. You know, we can't be lost in this haze of results over the next few weeks because there's a lot of games. And what can happen, as we've seen, it changes quickly. So because there's games every day this week, by the time next week comes, this is my concern, that we're just going to find out the games, and then by the middle of January, we could be in a bit of a storm. But it is down to the players. It is down to how Conte reacts to all this speculation which is going on. We don't know. What's your gut feel?
My gut feel is that there's a malaise going on. It's almost like I was watching the highlights from the North London derby back in May, and it feels like there's been a sort of steady decline since then, and it's been hard to put your finger down on it. You know, we've had there's been some issues off the field which seem to have affected us. I think the loss of Ventrone has affected a lot of players for some reason. Certainly seems to have impacted on Son and Dyer, I'd say, who are probably the closest to him. And I'm not sure that it's not also had an effect on Conte too. I think he doesn't appear as, I don't say committed, but I don't think he doesn't feel like he's the same person that he was at the tail end of last season.
What I said to you, and I think we said this in the last conversation that we had, is Conte is in a real strong position financially. Anyway, we know that, but in terms of this position that he's got at the club, you know, we know when he signed this contract, it was always going to come to this point. He's under no real pressure to re-sign. He's under no pressure to do that, unless, of course, he gets what he's asked for. And it's becoming more and more apparent now, and you can only go by the reports that we see circulating. We can go by some trusted news outlets, some trusted reporters that we kind of look at and think, yeah, okay. But of those ones, as you said, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, is Conte happy? What's happening with the ball? What players are they potentially bringing in? Can we afford this player? Is this player actually going to come? Are we going for the wrong players? There's too much of that. You know, I saw what Liverpool did with that Gakpo thing. Bam, it's done. Wow. 2 days, literally, I found out, oh, he's Gakpo. Next day, he's done, holding up the shirt. We don't seem to have that. And my concern is that there isn't, because of the Paratici saga, that we might not necessarily have full plans. Now, there's a lot of people that work at Spurs. There's a lot of people responsible for a lot of different things. So they have to get it right. But we've seen a lot of wrongs. And my thoughts are that we get lost in the rush. Other people are doing stuff. We get left behind. We leave it too long. We can't leave it to the end of January before we sort out transfers, as you know, because we've got a lot of games coming up and we could be out of a few competitions. Tomorrow's game. Let's do it. We may as well start. We may as well, Sean. I think it's time to share screen and to look and see what Villa are going to bring for us tomorrow. David, welcome back. Sorry, David. If Dyer gets a new contract and Levy continues to run the club as before and Conte puts up with it, then Conte is a fraud to his own DNA. And like I said, this is the thing, because Conte's said a lot before. We're likely to see that Conte is going to do what he's done. And you've got some expertise, certainly more so than me, Sean, in the Italian side of things. Do you think Italy's where you would definitely go back to? Or is there anything else that might potentially catch his eye in the Premier League?
Well, it's hard to see a club, a position in the Premier League. I think Conte really thinks that the Premier League is the league to be successful in, because of its, you know, its global reach, its the quality of the coaches that are, you know, you're competing against. I do feel he would love to stay in the Premier League if he could. Obviously, there's a pull at home. His daughter is in the last few years of her schooling in Italy, and they've obviously decided that she should remain in Italy. So there's, you know, there is that separation of family, and you know, to me, he comes over as quite a family-orientated man. So I would imagine that's going to pull on it. But you know, is Serie A really the league he wants to go back to? Not particularly. I mean, he's been there and done that, to be honest. I think it's, you know, he's looking for something possibly here. But I don't see the Man United job becoming available. I don't see the City job becoming available.
Newcastle.
One thing, there was a the guys at the Evening Standard were doing their forecast for 2023, and one of them said Potter gets sacked at Chelsea.
I don't know if he'd go back to Chelsea. You know,
Well, it's a different regime. Remember, it's a different regime. He fell out with Abramovich in a big way. He wouldn't have to deal with him anymore.
True, but are Chelsea going to do what Chelsea have done in the past? I know they've already spent quite a bit of money. They don't seem to have really progressed any. Are they going to then go out and spend another 200, 300, 400 million pounds for a new manager to come in to do all that stuff again? I don't know. I'm in agreement with you. I think he wouldn't go back to Italy just because I don't think there's a real challenge there for him. He'd be back at home, yes, but then again, his daughter's away at school. She's at school here, is that right?
No, she's at school in Italy.
Oh, right. Well, okay. Sorry, I misheard you. That might be the pull then, you know, to get him back home. Getting back home would be a massive thing for him. He doesn't need the money. He's not going back there because he needs to get a few pennies under his, in his bank account. Does he see the challenge of another Italian club other than Juventus, other than Inter? I don't know. But being back in Italy, I think that's going to be a massive draw. And I think if we make a mistake by not getting and keeping this manager at least 80% happy, what I mean by that, no manager is going to get every single thing they want. We know that. Football doesn't work like that. But we can't be getting players that he doesn't want. Just completely doesn't want. And I have a feeling that there's a few players in this squad that we bought in the window that he doesn't want. And that's the biggest concern for me. We ain't got enough players to rotate, particularly in that wing-back area, that's going to take us forward until we get that sorted out. And the centre-back area, there's plenty. But anyway, right, Sean, we're not going to depress this anymore. Let's look forward to a game because I think we're going to win this one. Let me get rid of the top bit on this banner such that we can see it for all you guys at home. Tottenham versus Aston Villa kicks off tomorrow. League table as it stands. Remember, there are some changes with this, people, because the games have finished and I didn't get to update this before then. So let's just look at the league table as it stood. Arsenal on the top, Manchester City second, Newcastle third, Manchester United after 16 games were in fourth place. Now we dropped to fifth. The thing is now Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man United all on the same game, 16 played. So it's getting tight. Let's look at the fixtures. Obviously, the fixtures are happening already today, but tomorrow's fixture, Spurs versus Villa, kicks off at 2:00. Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, 4:30. Then on Monday, Brentford versus Liverpool, and then the fixtures all start again from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday onwards. Mr. Hurl, Liverpool. Are you concerned by the renaissance, the way that Liverpool seems to be getting results now? They've already signed this Gakpo, and I think he's going to be a pretty good player for them.
Yeah, I mean, it does surprise me that Liverpool have bought in forward areas. I was always thinking that their problem was midfield, but and obviously I think their hand has been turned by the fact that Diaz has sustained yet another injury. So that's probably why they had to bring forward the acquisition of Gakpo. But Liverpool were never out for me. I mean, I can't see them winning the league. They've lost too many games really to win the league. But as a top four, there's nothing like continued success, and that attracts players. If you're competing, if you're winning trophies as Liverpool have done in the recent past, then players are going to come to you. And that's the thing that's not happening to Tottenham Hotspur. We're not winning trophies and we're not competing. And we'll always be second best behind a Liverpool. We'll always be a second best behind a Manchester United even. And
I think we don't buy as well as Liverpool. Liverpool, again, they're financially hamstrung as well. They haven't got as much money as, they don't. They have to sell to buy. But they've sold well. The Coutinho deal springs to mind. Got rid of him for 100 and whatever it was, and then went and rebuilt their team. Mane coming to the end, they got rid of him to buy. Now that's probably looking like a mistake to them in terms of how they were performing. But what they've now gone and done, they went out and got Nunes. They'd already got Jota, but now they've gone out and got Gakpo. So for a player they've lost one, they've now got three players that they can rely on. Diaz is there as well. So that's the sort of thing that we don't do. Mm-hmm. We've got Harry Kane. We've known for years that Harry Kane can't just be relied on. We've tried to get this player in to fit this, maybe fit this. Not quite right. Richarlison, probably the closest thing in terms of a player that I would like to see playing for Spurs that I would almost say, okay, Harry Kane's not playing, I don't mind, because Richarlison in the World Cup was awesome. Mm-hmm. Is Richarlison at the World Cup going to be the same as us for us? No, he's not. We've got to get the transfers right. We've also got to get a way of playing for a team. This 3-4-3, regardless, I'm just not sure we have the players to maintain that.
No, I think I've been kind of wondering, how does a 3-4-3 beat a 3-5-2? When you have that extra player in midfield, I just don't see, it's so easy to be dominated as far as I'm concerned in midfield. And I just think, I just don't know how they're going to, upgrade. Certainly, we know the positions that need to be upgraded, but it's just not going to happen in January. And I fear that, that we'll see Conte leave in the summer, having, done his bit to the contract that he originally signed. I know Tottenham have an option, but, he's got enough fuck off money to say, to say, well, all right, I can't work for a year, but, and you'll pay me for a year. That's fine. I'll sit at home and,
when I think of it, that sort of a contract is really, it can go really sour, because at the end of the day, like you said, if they sign him up, it doesn't mean to say he has to perform. It's like with a footballer, they can sign him up for another year, but if he can't be asked, they're paying whatever they're paying. So you've got to be motivated. This is what I'm saying about Conte. What's his motivations if he doesn't get the players he wants? Because he can't compete. He said that he can't compete with what he has. He wants to be able to compete. And when he starts coming out with things like, oh, the club wants some, and I'm paraphrasing again, the club are looking for similar players in terms of the ages, the Bentancurs and the Kulishevskis, because of the wage structures and just, little things like that, which suggest to me we're not going out for that massive player. We're not going to be paying the 300 grand a week's wages, 250, whatever it would be, to get a player of that sort of capacity. And it's just rinse and repeat.
And it's not that the 3-4-3 can't beat a 3-5-2, but you have to have exceptional players to play it.
You have to have control of the ball, Sean. You have to have the ball.
And we don't have those exceptional players to control the ball.
No, we don't. We don't. And that's where I think if we had more, because like I said, 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2, here's ways of beating it. If you've got the extra width in the areas, because the 3-4-3 allows you've got to play in wide areas. But to play in wide areas for Spurs, you've got to have good wide players. Unfortunately, our forward players are good in them wide areas, but they then play infield. So then you're relying on your wing backs. That's where we're hamstrung, because we cannot get effective end product out of our wing backs on both sides on a regular basis. If one side was faltering on one game, we get the right side. But then it's like we've seen some games where we're just not getting enough down there. Perisic, bless him, is playing well, and I like the fact that he can show that he can play many games in a row. But he ain't going to do that for the rest of this season. You know what I mean? You're motivated for your country for that. You want to win a World Cup. If you're out of the FA Cup at Spurs and you're out of the top four, what are you going to be motivated for? And if you don't know the manager's staying and there's talk in the camp about this and that, it becomes difficult. So, Sean, this last 5 matches that Spurs and Villa have played. We can see Spurs' results: 2-2 against Brentford away, 4-3 home win. That was before the World Cup. 2-1 loss to Liverpool, a 3-2 win against Bournemouth, and a 2-1 loss to Newcastle. So up and down. Villa, kind of the same, no draws in there, but lost to Liverpool, won against Brighton. They won against Manchester United at home, lost against Newcastle 4-0, which could happen to anybody this season at the moment. And they won against Brentford 4-0. So again, they're a bit of a mixed bag. Can't say they're good at home and they're bad away. I'll have to go back further to look at that. But looking at those recent results, Sean, is there any? We should be favourites to win this game. Home, take them 3 points. Yeah.
Yeah, we should be. We should be at home. I mean, historically, if Spurs are at home, I think we've got a chance. But I have to say, I'm I'm going against my normal glass half full today, and I'm not very optimistic about tomorrow. I'll be honest with you.
A Sid and Darius. You're going to do a Sid and Darius. Oh, God. This is getting harder and harder to do now. Well, I'm just going to look at this form position-wise. Villa in 12th, 13th at the moment, I think now. 1-9 games Tottenham, 1-5 games Villa, 3 drawn, each lost 4. Now, getting to the stats, which is the important ones, which I tend to look at to see how the game might go. Again, we're playing at home tomorrow. Our average goals scored per match, 2 against their 1. I'm hoping that we can score goals tomorrow. That's the one thing. Average goals conceded. We can't keep clean sheets. Neither can they. But they've kept more clean sheets than us. That's not a good thing. Chances created 1.63 to 1.13. You're right to have a little bit of a little bit, because we don't know who's playing tomorrow. Have we got any sort of insight into the team news, Sean?
Well, obviously, Conte in his press conference dropped the bombshell that Bentancur is not back yet, and he's actually going for an MRI. I think he's been under a series of MRIs since he come back, and I think it's obviously a much deeper injury than we were first given, and he was given first cause to think. So, in the midfield, I would say it's going to be the same. It's going to be Højbjerg and Bissouma. I get the impression that Royale is now out of the picture, so it will probably be Doherty at right wing back, and I would say that it will be Perisic. I think it's going to be, the middle of the park. If we're going to play 3-4-3, which we will, it's going to be similar to Brentford. Changes, if they're going to come, are obviously going to come in the back three, with the return of Romero, possibly a rest for Eric Dyer, and then you've got a perm 2 from 4. So I don't know who, Longley and Davis, or Longley and Sanchez. I don't know. I really don't know.
Sure. Let me ask you then, and we haven't mentioned it at the moment. You might have, but I didn't hear if you did. Son, does he play tomorrow? Does he start?
I think we've got no choice. That's the problem. The man is clearly out of form. I think I shared that article for the Athletic around the our WhatsApp group, and you can't help, and I know there are people out there who will scream stats at you. The man is clearly out of form, and has been since day one.
There's no doubts.
I mean, it's like, someone else has been deposited in his body. He has not been good all season. I mean, and there's no hiding from the fact that it's not just that he's not scoring goals; he's not contributing in assists either. And he's not getting behind defenders. He's running into cul-de-sacs. He's not carrying the ball like he used to do when he was dribbling. He's just not the same player, and you can't really afford to have I mean, as I say, that's why Harry Kane has been such an absolute godsend, because he's stepped up this, because Kane traditionally was a player who grew into the season, was scoring more at the back end of the season,
And this is why I keep saying to myself, why are we persistent with the 3-4-3? Not because I don't want Conte to play a system that he doesn't want to play, because that's his preferred system. But not when we haven't got the personnel to currently fill it with the injuries that we have. The 3-4-3, when you've only got 3 forwards, effectively, because he's not playing Gil. I don't know what's happening with Lucas Moura. So you've effectively taken them 2 players out of the equation. So you are left with 3 forwards if you don't include Richarlison. Now, if you ain't got a form of a player, you've got nothing to change it with. You can change it in field, but if a form's not there from the player, you're not going to get much out of him, because I don't think it doesn't matter what you do with Son at the moment. You can put him on the right, you can put him centrally. He does that anyway. He pops up. He's just not playing well. He's just not playing well. So go with the 3-5-2, Deji and Kane up front for me, and then Son on the bench to have an effect. People would say having Son on the bench, Villa will be like, oh, great, he's not starting. But they wouldn't want to see him come on after 60 minutes with his pace, even if he just has pace. But he's got no end product. So do you think it's going to be 3-4-3 then? With Son
it's going to be I mean, there's nothing that convinces me that we've got, he's going to go to the 5 in midfield. It seems to be an in-game change if he feels that we're being overrun, and only then in extremis, It seems, it's only when things are really bad does he agree to go to the extra man in midfield. One or two games in the early autumn, I seem to remember him doing it. But he's wedded to the system. He's, we've got one quality fullback, wing back in Perisic, and the others are, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? I mean, I would say I'm not convinced by Sessegnon. I think Sessegnon's been a poor purchase. So we haven't got anyone else to back up Perisic. Of the two on the right that are in consideration, it seems to be Doherty over Royale. What is going on with Jed Spence? I don't know. He wasn't even mentioned in the press conference yesterday.
You can't alienate too many players. This is the problem with some managers, and I have a feeling because they are the elite managers, they're stubborn, they fall out of play. Jose did it. Jose Mourinho done it. He's famously done it before. But it's at a cost, because now, if he has fallen out, let's say there has been words said with Emerson Royale, and he doesn't really fancy Jed Spence, we are left with just Matt Doherty. And he could be up and down, because we've seen that he's had to get himself back up to a speed because of the injury that he had and just the general level of confidence. I think that can be knocked just as easily. I think there could be a game he could have where he doesn't play well. It will knock his confidence. And then what do we do?
Yeah. I mean, it's we don't have the depth at wing back, and depending on who you believe in the transfer tittle tattle, wing back is a priority, or centre back is a priority, but never, it seems, the two. This is why I'm very pessimistic about tomorrow. I can't hide it, and it's again, it's poor recruitment. Poor recruitment.
Tomorrow's game is in my head a must win. That, regardless of the players that play on the pitch, effort levels aren't dependent on your ability to play football. That's a given. But I would say that we have a better team than Villa. We're at home, and if we put the effort levels in and the crowd stays in and we get the first goal, I think that's the important thing for us. If we don't get that first goal, the crowd is going to be tetchy at best. And the players are going to be nervy. We know that they can come back, but I think I'm getting to that. It's almost like the final straw now. If they can't, there's a problem. We know there's a problem, but what if they cannot tomorrow get that first goal and go on to win the game because of that? Yeah, I'm with you on this one. It starts to look a little bit, well, where is the next victory going to come from, sort of thing? Because Arsenal is on the horizon.
Yeah. And currently, we don't beat Arsenal. I'm sorry, they're a better team than us.
And that's hard to take.
That's hard to say, let alone hard to take.
Hard to bloody deal with that at the moment. So I'm going to try and make myself feel happier, and to try and make you feel a little bit happier by looking at the previous results against Villa. Last time out, Villa 0, Spurs 4, back in October 21. Spurs 2, Villa 1, May 21. Spurs 1, Villa 2. That was the only loss that we've had in the last 5 games. Before that, back in March, Villa 0, Spurs 2, and February 2020, Aston Villa 2, Tottenham Hotspur 3. So there's 2 home games, 1-1, 1 lost. So again, you can't bank on anything with Tottenham Hotspur. Not a thing can you bloody bank on. You can't even say, the last 2 home games we've been winning comfortably, because that's not the case. It's been 2-1s, and I think that's the scoreline, which we'll get to when we do the predictions. Anyway, the last bit of this head-to-head. If that makes anybody feel better, hopefully it does those of you who are listening and watching, 54 games played. Tottenham have won 24, Villa have won 15, and there's been 15 draws. And if you look at the home wins for us, 14 have been won of the 24 at home. Any better, Sean?
No. I've got a quote here that I'll probably end with, but yeah.
Mate, this is Christmas time. Well, Christmas is gone, but
yeah. Well, yeah. The thing is, though, we've been we've obviously been on the naughty step because we've got no presents. Absolutely no presents. I think we've Santa has decided to just basically bypass us in N17. You know, with our hearts in N17 and leave us down in the dumps, because he's certainly done that to me when it comes to things, all things Tottenham.
Johnny from Bethnal Green, stroke Kent. The way to get players back in form is to play them in their natural positions, not like Conte BS he pays. The only priority for Lewis and Levy is profit, from Mr. David Clark. Welcome, David. Paul Pablo, should I say. Everybody says about the Brentford game, one thing I know what was picked up on was on the pitch, looked pretty bad, but some worst pitch I've seen in the Premier League. That was Brentford pitch was terrible. It was terrible. But
yes, again, I mean that's because they'd had a rugby game 2 days prior to our game.
Okay, but
I mean, you know, it was a shambles, and you know, when you looked up when they had close-ups, you just saw the pitch. It just looked.
Although Brentford did play a little bit of football, they had a way of playing. They did get them ball up to them front too. So I guess the midfield of the pitch didn't really matter to them if they were going to play a certain way. You have to adapt. They did try to play football, and it wasn't good for either team. But still, you know, we were able to get goals. So
there's an advantage when you can train on the pitch. So
yeah, you're right. But they're good at home.
They're very good at home. Yeah,
of the games that they've gone ahead, they haven't lost. They didn't lose to us. Gonna have to do it, mate. Here we go. Score predictions. Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa tomorrow. I'm gonna go first on this one, Sean.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this one first. I don't know what I'm gonna do this time, but I'm just thinking about it. I said the scoreline. I'm thinking it's gonna be 2-1. It's gonna be Spurs. I'm not doing the damage. I'm not doing the sin. I can't bring myself to do it. I'm not going to the game because I can't get a train down. I am not taking that risk of driving down and thinking to myself, I'm driving back that long way. So, 2-1 Spurs. The only person that scores for us recently is Kane. You lot got a point for that, by the way, because I went and done something silly like thinking somebody else might score goals like Longley, but it didn't happen.
He did a great assist for Kane's goal, though.
Yeah, it was a good cross. Kane double. 2-1 Spurs. Mr. Hurley.
Right. It's going to break my heart, but I want to read you something I found on the net here. This is dated December the 22nd, 2000. Right? And it's from an article in the Irish Independent. You can look it up. It says, Tottenham fans have been warned not to expect any significant investment in the team from their new owners by the chairman of AEK Athens, the Greek team which ENIC have already backed. AEK's chairman, Cornelius Searhouse, revealed his belief that the investment of ENIC in Tottenham does not bode well for their supporters. And it carries on, and then it says, it finishes, this is the one that killed me. This is a quote from Levy at the time. So we're talking 2020, right? No. This is from 2000, so 22 years ago, this month. Levy's comment was, Tottenham is a major British football club with a prominent sporting heritage. We are firmly committed to improving Tottenham's commercial viability as one of these countries' top football clubs. Not a single word about improving Tottenham's trophy winning and competitive nature on the field. And that for me is the straw that breaks the camel's back. And that's why I'm predicting that I am going to go 2-1 as well, but I'm going in reverse. I think Kane will score for us. but we will concede 2 goals again, and this time we won't come back. And that breaks my heart. As a Spurs man since January 1968, this is breaking my heart to see we have probably the best manager in a generation at our club, but we have the worst owners in a generation, or 2 or 3 at our club, and that's why I don't see us winning tomorrow. I can't see it. I will be over the moon if we do.
Yeah, we have to.
Obviously.
Sure. A draw. A draw won't cut it tomorrow. A loss is unthinkable in my head, just for the fact of the games coming up. So it's unthinkable because we've got to turn around again for Wednesday. You've got to turn around again for the game on Wednesday. You know, and then
God forbid
other teams.
Wednesday.
Oh, I know. And then from Wednesday, what I'm saying
if you're a Spurs player and you saw that interview that Conte gave in Sky Sports News, and you can look it up on, I think it's Football Daily on Twitter. There's 2 clips from there. His whole demeanour is of a defeated man. He's not saying anything derogatory about the football club, but it's not saying, you know, that Conte, all I need is a 1% chance.
It's none of that.
It's not that. And I think if you're a player, that's going to be sending, you know, it sends the wrong message. I don't think it was his intention, maybe, but, you know, that's how it's come over to me.
Well, we can speculate, as I said, unless he's had words with the board and he knows already the position of the transfers, then that's the only reason I could think that his body language and his words, or lack of words, would be as it was. Because, as you said, Conte, he does have his outbursts, he does have his moments, but usually he has them for a reason. So he will have an outburst for a reason. We saw last season in that Burnley game, particularly, his rant. And I look back at that and I thought at the time, I was like, wow. But then I look back and listen to some of the words. He was clearly directing things at the ball, wanting to get to see anything. And I think to a degree it worked because he got 2 players that obviously made a big difference. But it was a gamble. You know, if he's been told, listen, we're only going for certain type of players and they're going to be the youngsters with potential similar to what we got in January, that's taking a risk. Conte has done that. He's done that with the 2 players that he got. Yes, he knew where they were coming from. And yes, he knew about them. But we can't keep doing that. We now need to see I want to see an established centre back. I don't want to see a Tyrone Mings. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I think might come down. A Tyrone Mings. Oh yeah, he's played for England and he's done all right, and he's available, and he's English. No. I don't want to see that sort of player. Sorry, Tyrone, if you're watching, you're probably not. Probably you're getting ready for the game tomorrow if you're playing, but I don't want to see you at Spurs. I don't know, mate. We're gonna have to see with the reaction show what the team is.
I'm hoping I'm getting all the brickbacks in the world tomorrow on the reaction show, and I'll deserve them. But I can only go with my gut feeling, what's going on at a football club, and you know the fact that there's. You know, there seems to be we're at a crossroads, and the route ahead is being blocked for us for some reason. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be a bit sticky. Right, this is probably the most enjoyable part we're going to have to do today, Sean, because it's been a bit of a heavy one. We needed Sid to do some scene. It's just me and you. You're taking it to a depth of a little bit emotional despair.
And the fact that Man City have drawn with Everton is, you know. I mean, it's just, do you know, this is, I can't help but say the fact that our nearest and dearest are doing so well is killing me.
I'm gonna put this on the board because I don't want to hear that at the moment. I can't hear it. The Paxton Road League table. It should be after 16 games. Sorry about that. I'm just going to change that. But Sean, you picked up a point for getting Kane on the scoreline, although he didn't get the right result. Nearly did. He was the closest one to getting it. 2-2 there. You said 3-2. Sid picked up a point as well for Kane scoring. I said 1-0 to Spurs with Longley scoring the goal. I should have put assist in this thing, and then I might have picked up half a point or something, but I didn't pick up
Well, you can't change the rules halfway through.
That's what I was thinking. I can't do that. You didn't find out. I was going to put half a point on there, but no, I couldn't do that. So I didn't make any points. So I'm 3 points behind. So I'm going with the victory tomorrow for that reason. And I'm going with the Kane double because if he scores, he's probably. I don't see Son doing anything. If I'm honest with you, this is the point. If I look at the game tomorrow, it's not like you can say, right, Son's he's had a flash here and there. If you think about it, he hasn't played well all season. Why do you think he's going to turn up tomorrow? What makes anybody think he's going to turn up?
Well, to be fair, of all of our shots on target, I think he had the vast majority of them against Brentford, if that's anything to be said. But they weren't very. I mean, they weren't. You know, they didn't never really challenge Raya to save them.
And breathe. Right, a few comments, and then we're going to get off. At David Clark, it was a bad pitch. We have no Dennis Law or Bobby Charlton in our squad for a passing team. It was so bad. Southgate has extended his contract with England through the next Euro Championship, so he won't be our next manager.
Oh yeah, that's because Audio Artisan has said he can see Southgate being in charge next.
Yep.
No, that's not happening.
It's not happening.
You know what's happening if Conte walks.
We know the manager.
There's a guy sitting in his garden at Barnet who's on the phone to Levy every other day, no doubt.
We know that it's a Poch thing. I think that's almost certain if things don't work out.
It's too soon, and it's far too soon. Far too soon. All the players that he had before needed to be gone. Maybe that will happen. Maybe Kane will go in the summer, and I mean he won't be. But you know,
sorry, David. I'm gonna have to read David's last comment out here. Sorry, David. I know what I said that. I know this was going to be one of them ones because we're feeling it at the moment. But David, I was all right until I came on here and listened to you two for 10 minutes. Christ Almighty, in Qatar, and a song would be the last straw. LOL.
I've got two guitars over there, but anyway, I won't bring them on now.
It is what it is. No, I'm hoping that. Well, I said I've gone for the win. I'm not look. We just need to get it. We just need to, whatever way we get the victory tomorrow, we need to, because you just roll on to Wednesday. You can't dwell on tomorrow's game too much because of the games coming up, because that game against Arsenal is massive, mate. It's massive.
I remember you saying you set that January the 23rd as the sort of cut-off point. And the more I think about it, I think you're right. If we're not in the next round of the FA Cup, if we're not in touching distance of the top four, because I think we're already one game ahead of the teams around us, so it's very difficult to say. If we're not, within a point of the top four, let's say, or within, one victory of the top four, then I think that's gone. And Conte will be gone in the summer. Yeah, so the 23rd of January, we will know, because by then, obviously, the transfer window will be coming to an end.
Well, I think 23rd will show us where we're gonna be for the season. I think that's what it would tell me. We still got to hope that we might get a couple of players in the transfer window, because I think it still closes on the 30th. Is it the 31st of January?
Yeah.
So we still got 8 days after that final game, but it will be such a mess. It'll be such a mess. It'll be just a recovery period if that's the case. If we're out the FA Cup and we're outside the top four significantly, it will just be a recovery job. We'll be doing
and I don't think I wouldn't at that point. I wouldn't see us getting past Milan in the Champions League either.
We are still in the Champions League. This is the point. We're in a if you actually just looked at it in as a whole, we're just outside the top four. We're fifth, around 16 in the Champions League. We're still in the FA Cup. In a normal circumstance, you've got Conte in charge. You've got Harry Kane scoring goals for fun. Really, you'd think, it's not bad, but it's on the inside. What we know on the inside makes it a little bit more difficult to see how this turns out. At this moment, I don't know how it turns out, mate. That's the biggest thing. I don't know how this turns out. Until I know what Conte's doing, I ain't got a clue how this thing turns out. Sean, final thoughts.
I want Spurs to confound my pessimism and turn it on. And I really, I will be so happy if we could see a goal, a goal fest with no goals conceded. But what I want and what I'll get don't necessarily marry up at the moment. But come on, you Spurs.
My final thoughts are Spurs are not good enough defensively to keep clean sheets, even at home. If we kept a clean sheet tomorrow, I would have 100% faith that we'd win the game. I still got 100% faith that we have to win the game. We should win the game because it's at home. 2-1 is a scoreline, but anything other than that tomorrow, it just makes everything else tough. Right, mate. Time to go.
Time to go. Happy New Year to you,
Happy New Year
Sam,
to
and your
mate. Happy
family.
New- happy
to
New
everyone
Year's.
out there in Paxton Roadland as well.
Happy New Year
And
to everyone.
don't let my pessimism get you down. Things will turn around. They always do. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Enjoy, everybody. Welcome who's been watching PRTV, Paxton Red TV, all of this year. Happy New Year to you. And like I said, we sometimes have these, but if Spurs win tomorrow, we'll be back on here for the reaction show. So you'll see us tomorrow. Sean. Sid, we just want to say, mention to Sid as well. Sid was due to be on here. He's had some family bereavement. So wish you all the best, mate. And we'll see you very soon on the stream again. But that's it. Done and dusted. Mr. Hell, later.